What if I told you that a 75-year-old woman was brutally murdered in her own home, and the killer walked free for nearly 6 decades? That her case sat forgotten in police archives for 57 years? No arrests, no justice, no answers. Until now. This is the story of Louisa Dunne, an elderly woman found strangled in her Bristol flat in 1967. Her death haunted a city, frustrated detectives, and faded into the background of British true crime history. But in 2025, thanks to a relentless cold case team, modern forensic science, and one final twist, justice was served. The man responsible? A 92-year-old retired railway worker who had lived a quiet life, hiding one horrifying secret. Get ready, because this isn't just another murder mystery. It's proof that some secrets refuse to stay buried.
Louisa Dunne was well known in her Bristol neighborhood. Born in 1892, she had lived through 2 world wars and was described by neighbors as quiet, gentle, and fiercely independent. On June 28, 1967, Louisa was found dead in her apartment at St. Paul's, Bristol. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled. The scene was disturbing, signs of a struggle, but no forced entry. Her flat showed signs of a violent confrontation, and yet there were few clues left behind. Despite a significant police effort, including door-to-door interviews and newspaper appeals, no one was arrested. The trail went cold, fast. There were no witnesses, no fingerprints, no suspect DNA. Her case joined the ranks of Britain's many unsolved crimes. As decades passed, the name Louisa Dunne was rarely mentioned outside of brief nods in unsolved case lists. But in 2023, Avon and Somerset police began Operation Beetle, a sweeping re-examination of cold cases involving elderly victims. The team used modern DNA testing, digital databases, and newly developed forensic strategies to reopen dozens of long-dormant files. Louisa's case stood out, not just for its brutality, but for its silence. When her clothing was re-examined using updated techniques, a preserved biological sample was found, likely missed or unusable by 1960s standards. And it matched someone. The DNA pointed to Ryland Headley, a former railway worker now 92 years old, living a quiet life in South Wales. At the time of the murder in 1967, he lived in the same neighborhood as Louisa and had been questioned very briefly by police, but never pursued. He had no prior violent offenses, nothing in his record screamed murderer. But the DNA didn't lie. Headley was arrested in 2024 and charged with rape and murder. His frailty shocked the public. Here was a man.
I'm arresting you on suspicion of the rape and murder of Louisa Dunne, which happened in Bristol in June 1967. The reason I'm arresting you is because the police have investigative material that indicates you are responsible for that rape and murder of Mrs. Dunne, which happened at Britannia Road in Easton, Bristol, June 1967. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned something that you later align in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
The trial gripped the UK. It was a mix of 1960s history and modern justice. Prosecutors laid out the timeline. Headley lived a short walk from Louisa's flat. He had no alibi for the night of the murder. His DNA matched the sample found on her clothing. The likelihood of contamination was slim. And finally, there was motive. Louisa lived alone, vulnerable and unsuspecting. The court heard harrowing evidence. Forensic experts testified how preservation techniques had improved. Cold case officers revealed how Louisa's story had been nearly forgotten and how Headley had slipped through the cracks. In a stunning moment, a retired officer revealed that Headley's name had appeared in the original case notes, but was never followed up because of a clerical error. He simply fell through the cracks. On July 4th, 2025, the jury returned their verdict. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered the sentence. Life in prison, with a minimum of 20 years to be served. Given Headley's age, it's likely he'll die behind bars. But for Louisa's family, what few descendants and distant relatives remain, it was a long-awaited form of justice. This was never just about punishment, one officer said. It was about giving Louisa a voice again.
The Louisa Dunne case matters for more than just its resolution. It shows how modern forensics can breathe life into even the oldest cold cases. It underscores the importance of persistence, both in police work and in public memory. It reveals how vulnerable elderly people, especially women, were and still are often overlooked victims in violent crimes. And finally, it poses a question. How many more Headleys are out there? How many more cases like Louisa's remain buried in boxes, waiting for a new set of eyes? Louisa never got to see justice in her lifetime. She died alone, violently, and without knowing who or why. But in 2025, the world finally remembered her. Photos of her as a young woman were shown during the trial, not just as a victim, but as a person, a life lived, a life lost. And now, a story closed.
The Louisa Dunne case reminds us that justice delayed is not always justice denied. Thanks to passionate investigators and cutting-edge science, one of Britain's oldest unsolved murders has finally been solved. If you found this story gripping, chilling, and important, please hit like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Do you believe more cold cases will be cracked with modern tech? Should we invest more in reopening unsolved crimes? And remember, someone always knows something. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and don't forget the forgotten.